What is up, everyone? Hey, it's kind of crazy. We're trying to get some people on here. Uh, got a couple of guys that's going to be joining me from my fantasy football league. I'm waiting for them to pop on, so I thought I would get on before it got too late. So I'm waiting on Brandon Chain and my buddy Lenny to join me. But, thought I'd get us started. We're going to be talking about cigars here in a little while and whiskey, which is crazy that I don't even drink. Here we got Leonard showing up. Let's see if we can add him to the stream.
I'm here. Should I do it on my phone or do it on my computer? What's easiest?
You sound great, man. You are live all over the internet right now.
Excellent. Very excited.
So Brandon's trying to get on too with us here, but this might be him. There he goes. Let's get Brandon on. Jane, it's going slow, Leonard.
I got you.
What's up, Brandon?
Sorry, a little technical.
Hey, it's okay, man. Hey, if we got Robbie and Raj through their first broadcast, we'll get you through it too.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it.
All right, guys. Well, we're live on the Wild World Wide Web. We've got 11 people watching us right now. Matter of fact,
nice.
Woo! I'm sure most of them are our friends waiting for us to do something dumb, but that's just who we are. So let me give a little background to everybody that saw the shows before. Robbie and Raj come from the same group that Brandon and Leonard does, or Lenny as we call him. This is my fantasy football league. So when we just talked about doing this, and we originally, before I joined the other show, this was what this show was supposed to be. Just my buddies hanging out. So these two love, Brendan, are you just a straight whiskey guy or what's your drink of choice?
No, it's both. I'm kind of more bourbon than whiskey. But there's so many good ones out there. It's really hard to really decipher one or the other. I don't know a lot about it. I just know I like what I like. And one of them, one of my go-tos is probably the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Really?
If you can get it for the money, it's fantastic. It's a 12-year made by Heaven Hill, and they do 3 releases a year. Usually there's an A, B, and C release, and it's a little higher proof. I tend to like my bourbon around 105 to the 130 range, somewhere in there. Probably the sweet spot's about 120, 125.
Really? That's a little stout.
Yeah, it's stout, but it you sip it, and I like to try the full flavor neat first, and then add a little water or put it on a rock. So yeah. I'm a non-drinker, but I'm intrigued by this because it's like it has caught fire. Especially it went like a few years ago. We just had like Jack Green, Jack Black, and just, Maker's Mark. And now, Lenny, when you go to a liquor store, there's barrel proof. There is, your liquor store can be picking barrels.
It's definitely become a little bit of a subculture all on its own, and like you said, it has caught fire. And, if you're, 27 to 35 Southern guy, you probably have gotten a little bit of the bourbon virus, so to speak. And, in terms of collecting, sampling, trying new ones, I'm not sure why it's all kind of came to a head in the last couple of years, but it's definitely a popular thing to be into. And you can see that all across restaurants and bars across the South now, that everybody's got a decent bottle of something, No longer is it just, we got Jack and Makers and, the regular kind of stuff now. Everybody's got some kind of unique pour. And even you find more and more places that'll do a single rock for you instead of just cubed ice, which is nice for people like me who don't like it as hot as Brandon, but still don't want a watery down slushy.
So both of you guys kind of grew up in that area over around Manchester, Winchester, Lynchburg, and there's as you can see, we got a comment. I was gonna get to this later, but since it's come up, have either of you tried Uncle Nearest yet?
I have not had that.
All right. Well, it's an interesting story if you haven't seen it. I've
read the story. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just intriguing to me that now it seems like it's like one of the hotter brands out there.
I've heard of it and I've seen it in the store, but I've never sampled it.
Same here. I don't know. I feel like once you reach 30, you got like two directions you can go. You can either like start smoking meats or you go to like bourbon. I figured I'd choose bourbon, So.
Yeah, absolutely. We were supposed to have Clay here, and he got his day mixed up. And Clay's kind of our cigar guy, so we'll stay on bourbon today. And as strange as it is, considering I'm a non-drinker, I'm intrigued by bourbon. And I noticed the other day that y'all were talking about, and I want to ask you about this Buffalo Trace that's putting out so many different bourbons. So start there and tell me what Buffalo Trace is and why it seems to be so hot in the liquor community.
Well, Buffalo Trace is a really popular bourbon right now, and they have a whole bunch of other ones off of that brand. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but the vast majority are wheated bourbons. Is that not correct, Brandon?
It is.
And I think those are pretty smooth and easy drinking bourbons. And for the price point, Buffalo Trace standalone is hard to beat. And for that point, it's become hard to find. And that's kind of a cycle that feeds on itself. You got a hot market for it now, and it's easy to drink and tastes great in my opinion. And it just keeps flying off the shelf.
Well, and you've got the Buffalo Trace collection, which is allocated once a year. They're impossible to find now. Used to be able to, find one or two here and there, but now if you don't know somebody or win a lottery pick, it's almost impossible to find.
Forget about it.
Yeah. And, the secondary market price on those things, I mean, you're paying upwards of $3,000 for William L. LaRue and, the Eagle Rare 17. I mean, it's outrageous. When you MSRP on them, $120, $150.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So do you both have okay, I'll spend this much, but I won't go past this price? Or do you just keep, I mean, do you just keep looking at your local?
How much bourbon I drank before I go.
Yeah. Or do you just keep looking at your local liquor store until you find it?
Well, for me, if I find something that I like that's not too crazy above MSRP, I think the 120 to 130, 50 range is about as much as I want to pay coming out of a store. And I really don't mess much with the secondhand market, as Brandon spoke to earlier, because it really is insane. It's crazy what they allow the market to do, even through places like Facebook, and it's just insane. But I try not to go over that, and there's been a couple of times where I found a couple of unique bottles. I've even texted Brandon about it, and hey, I found this in Illinois, and it was, I don't know, it was like $300 for something. Can't remember what it was now, but there becomes a certain point where you feel a little ridiculous spending that much money on bourbon, But if it's below the 120 range for just about any bottle here, I'm fairly comfortable spending that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, obviously.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite bourbons that I've ever had, it's top three for me, is the William Heaven Hill 12. which I believe was a 2020 release, maybe a 2019. Can't remember. It's the purple label. Fantastic. You could only get it at the distillery. My wife happened to be traveling. She picked it up for me. But they're flipping it on secondary market for $800-900. She paid $250 or $230, at the distillery for it. But they only made, it's a limited release. They only made 360 barrels or 65 barrels, something like that. So, I mean, they'll never have that batch again. So there's a point there where you're like, do you pull the trigger to have once in a lifetime kind of
right
deal for that batch? But it's all in what you like, is my opinion, and what you're, things are only worth what you're willing to pay.
Right.
If you really like something, get it. Who cares?
So we got a question for the internet, and maybe whichever one you want to add. Someone, Greg from Knoxville, is asking, do you ever take a blended whiskey? And I know blended whiskey is generally when a distillery will take 3 or 4 batches and blend it together. Are you pro blended whiskey? Because to me, it seems like it's not the true taste of a batch. It's you take 3 different batches and get a taste out of it.
I think people probably would be more surprised that this happens more frequently than they realize. And to me, as long as the taste profile you enjoy, I think you really shouldn't split hairs over it. I think it happens pretty frequently. And, I actually have a little, what I call an infinity bottle, where I take, when I pour a drink, I might pour half a shot into this infinity bottle. And it's kind of a collection of all my whiskeys. And I had some of that last night, and I was pretty tickled by it, to be honest. I enjoyed it. So I think it happens more frequently than people realize. And, from my opinion, as long as you enjoy it, then you shouldn't split hairs over it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've got a version of Poor Man's Pappy, which is a blended Weller 12. I think it's 1 part Weller 12, 2 parts Antique 107. Let it marinate for 2-3 weeks, and it's pretty tasty. So I'm not opposed to blended whiskeys. Like Lenny said, it's all about your palate and what you like. Don't be too quick to judge on the blended whiskey.
Okay. So if a mash build has more than 50% wheat in it, it gets into a bourbon, correct? So explain to us that don't understand this world when they're talking about 50% wheat or not 50% wheat. What does that do to the taste of the liquor? Because it's definitely a difference between different. I mean, it's brown liquor, but you definitely have some names that are used there according to the mash bill, correct?
Yep, that's true. And Brandon could probably speak to this more technically than I could. But you basically wheat versus rye. In my opinion, and I don't claim to have the most refined palate, but I find that the wheated whiskeys typically have a smoother and softer nature to them. Ryes seem to have a little bit more crisp and distinguished profile, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. The wheated bourbons tend to be a lot smoother, not quite as complex. Ryes, you get quite a bit more spice, even though they're not necessarily higher proof. You'll get a lot more kind of spicy flavor to them, and just seem more complex. So typically, when I order an old fashioned or something of that nature, which is actually a little bit of a sweeter drink, I usually order it with a rye. To offset that sweetness, so you still get some of that complexity. If you do it with a wheated bourbon, sometimes it gets a little too sweet. For me, again, to each their own. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. I don't know a whole lot about it, but
so no, I agree with that. I find that a sweetness and an overwhelming sweetness profile in a bourbon is one of the things that I dislike the most. It just doesn't fit my nature. And with an old fashioned like that, sometimes it's just like, wow, this is just, it's like not far cry from like a spiked sweet tea. You know, it's just so
Yeah,
sugary and sweet. It's just too much.
yeah. It's like a hand grenade in New Orleans. You just
Yeah.
got 3 sips of it, and your stomach starts hurting.
So there's definitely a level that you use for mix and a level that you use for sipping whiskey. Which ones do you prefer? Or is it according to your mood? Hey, I feel like an old fashioned tonight, or I really want some kind of just straight up sipping whiskey.
Well, for me, I don't stray too far from just a single rock and about a solid 2 inch pour. I do enjoy some old fashions and the variety of good mixed drinks that you can make. But I don't stray too far from just the straight and normal.
I'm with you, 100%. I'll if we're having a big gathering and stuff, try to tend to the crowd. Usually make some old fashions or something like that for people, and I'll have one or two. I tend to just like the actual body and flavor of the natural bourbon or whiskey.
Yeah.
Like I said, the rock. Um, I like to taste it out of a Glencairn first, especially if it's the first time I tried it,
Right.
which is nobody knows one of these little
Yeah.
guys. Um, it it really does. It's kind of like why you drink wine out of a wine glass. It helps with the nose and all that other stuff, which I'm terrible at, by the way.
It's
But I'm
it's
trying. I'm
it's really
trying.
hard to become good at that and
Yeah,
distinguish,
I mean,
individual notes and flavors. Last night I was having one. It was it had some really strong coffee and not coffee, excuse me, caramel and toffee notes in it,
Right.
and it was just like it popped out to me because I struggle with identifying, what I'm
yeah,
noticing in these different bourbons, and this one was just like, whoa, okay, now I
yeah.
see.
That's
And go ahead. Go ahead, Brandon.
no. I was just that's like the William Heaven Hill 12 I was talking about earlier. That was one of the first bourbons I was able to actually taste something other than a little heat and just the ethanol. But it was, I mean, it's 100. Got it right here.
Show us the
100,
bottle.
134 proof.
Wow.
Whew.
But it tastes like a peanut butter sandwich almost. Like,
Mhm.
and it's almost to like a just super nutty and chewy almost. Like if that makes sense, Lenny, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like you'll get some bourbons that are super thin and they finish really bad.
Yeah.
Like they start out great and it's like, oh, this is gonna be good, and then you swallow and it's like it's just gone immediately. Well,
Hmm.
this just lingers and it's almost like chewy. It's like an oily kind of chewy, like just lasts and keeps going. And you really catch that peanut butter nutty flavor at the tail end of it, which is fantastic finish. Which why it's one of my favorite bourbons.
Brandon, do you ever mix? If you're drinking on one that night, do you try to stay with it that whole night, or did you?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh yeah.
I'm a variety. Yeah,
Oh okay.
for sure. Well, and typically, aside from something like this, I don't drink the good stuff unless I have someone to drink it with.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
I'm all about sharing and getting other people's opinions and experiences on it. So, I mean, I don't want to sit there and drink all my good stuff alone and tell somebody about it. So
Right.
Do
Hey,
you go ahead?
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was
We,
gonna say, do you ever
we,
have the tendency to just if you got a bottle that you're not in love with, just want to put that sucker down and move on and get it out of the house?
yeah, that usually becomes old fashioned for the crowd.
Fair enough.
ironically, that is gonna lead to my next question. Is and I really mean this. When we go, we all spend a weekend together once a year, and I've made it no secret I don't drink because of reasons. But when you guys are drinking, I want to smell everything that you all are drinking
Yeah,
because I just find it unique the smell that can come out like of basically the same mix of chemicals made differently. So you said you're not great at nosing, but do you ever find one that you just, hey, I like the way this smells? Like I can tell you right now, I love the way Maker Mark smells. Ever since before I quit drinking, I love it. Just smells. It smells like what whiskey should be.
Yeah, that's interesting. You say that. Maker Mark definitely has a pronounced flavor and smell to it, in my opinion. And it's one of the reasons it's not my favorite. So it's interesting to hear you say that. That's one of the reasons you like it. But yeah, there's a couple that I've got. I've got an Old Forester up here that I really like the way it smells. And then I think one of the things that people don't do enough is smell it with your mouth open too. I think that's one of the better ways to get a full flavor profile on it.
No, I agree. Again, I'm not that great at them. I tend to steer towards the kind of chocolate, nuttier smells for me, which may smell better, but it's all about flavor and taste to me. Really more on the palate than the nose. I can typically get by the nose pretty quickly with no problem. So,
we got a comment from our friend Allison Hale Davis that said, Brendan, it's impossible to do that kind of gathering right now because it requires people being in the same room. So, I guess we'll
that is true. That's why I have several bottles that are ready for old fashions when we get back together. So,
sounds like we're going to have a fun draft this year. So, I don't know if y'all have watched the other show I'm on, the other angle with Philip Chaplin. But Chappie drinks bourbon the whole time, so he's intrigued by this. So I'm going to ask just the dumbest question I can ask either one of you. So Chappie always says, drink the good stuff. I enjoy the good stuff. If you're building like a tailgate bar, do you invest or do you just go get a couple of bottles of Jacks? And because here at the house, I've got a couple of bottles. You come over to my house and you say, hey, you got something to drink? I'll say, yeah, you want a Coke and whiskey? It's going to be Jack Daniels. That's it. So how about y'all when you have company or a tailgate or something like that? What do you do?
Well, I don't want to say I'm a snob about it because I don't like when people are snobs about it to me. But I will say that if you came over and you picked out one of my better whiskeys and you wanted to mix it with a Coke, I wouldn't be insulted, but I wouldn't be pleased with you.
no.
And for that reason, you do. I mean, I think you should provide some whiskeys that are, more designed for mixing, in my opinion. Your JD, your Makers, some of that stuff. This other stuff, I think, I don't want to say you're wasting it, but you're not getting the full your full ticket's worth, in my opinion. You're missing out on some of the finer aspects of it if you don't, enjoy it neat or with some little water to open it up or with a little ice. That's just
I think it's all about the people you're around too. Some people just enjoy a good Jack and Coke, Robbie Davis.
Yep.
And then there's some people that enjoy good bourbon. So I think you keep a little bit of each on hand. Tailgates, parties, I definitely don't mind sharing. Like I said, I'd rather share and drink good bourbon with people that appreciate it and like it. But no, I'm not going to let Robbie mix my William Heaven Hill 12 with some Coke.
Yeah.
Even if he does a rap song.
Even if he
definitely
does
not then.
All right. A question then for both of you. We've been on some social settings where everyone starts out on a nice bourbon, but as the night goes on, it may deteriorate. If you're having a night where it's just, hey, I'm going to catch a little buzz and I'm going to hang out with my boys at the lake, do you start with a nice bourbon and finish with just maybe a house blend, or once you start nice, you have to stay nice?
Well, for me, I don't try. I'm 36 now. I don't ever try to mix any liquors or any other beverages. I mean, sometimes I'll have a couple beers and then switch to bourbon, but that's rare and rarer. Now I'm more of if I'm going to get on the bourbon train, I'm staying on it till we get off, wherever that is. And
Yeah.
in terms of, mixing, if I was going to have a Makers, on the lake and then switch to some good stuff later tonight, I'm not sure I would want to go too high end on that later switch, just because I would lose um,
Yeah.
some of the notes and some of the tasting profile, just because you've been drinking all day. I'd rather enjoy that for a fresh start, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like, some of the good stuff. We're in for a long haul drinking. I'm going to drink some of the good stuff, first couple rounds, and then definitely try and mix in some water in between, because some of the higher proofs I like to drink will catch up pretty quickly. So, yeah, but I like to stay on the train once you get on it.
So this is a great question from my friend Rick here in Chattanooga. He wants to know, do you find different whiskeys give you a different kind of buzz?
That's
Yeah,
interesting. That's an interesting question. I don't think I think there's different kind of buzz between a wine and a whiskey and a beer. Uh,
sure.
but I'm not sure I'm at the point where I can delineate between different types of whiskey buzzes at this point. I'm
No,
not sure
no.
if I want to either.
I know you get there quicker with the higher proof. Like I said, that's why you mix in the water in between for sure. But yeah, as far as you got a whiskey bourbon buzz or a wine buzz or a beer buzz, I think you can definitely delineate between those.
So you started it early, Brandon. Let's get into what you really like. You said what is your top three? And then Lenny, same question to you. What are, if it's not three, what are your five go-tos? Just give us a sample of what's going on at the Chain House right now.
So top three right now, obviously the William Heavy Meal 12. I've got the 2019 George T. Stagg, which is fantastic. And then I'd have to say the Whistle Pig Black Prince. It's probably my
So I've
top
never
three.
had any of that Whistle Pig. Is it pretty good?
So I'm not a huge Whistle Pig fan.
Neither am I, to be honest with you. Which
Some of the lower stuff, well, I'll say lower years, I guess, like the 10 and the 12. The 12 is actually, okay, yeah.
my dog just scared the crap out of me. Sorry.
Somebody who's broken in on you, Lenny.
Yeah, it's my mom.
I thought we had a drive-by.
Scared me. Go ahead, Brent.
But the Whistle Pig 12 is really good. The 15, I believe, I feel is overpriced. But that Black Prince, if you can find it, I think original MSRP might have been like $3.99 or $4.99, but it's upwards of $600 and $700 now. But it's fantastic. Again, it's a higher proof. I don't know why. I just feel like on some of those really good ones, even though they're higher proof, they drink more like a 110 or something of that proof, because they've got so much flavor. It takes away the heat. But yeah, I mean, that's my favorite. Obviously, I can't afford to drink those daily or anything of that nature. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm at.
I've got three that are kind of middle tier that I think I've really enjoyed in the last bit. New Riff, not much of a secret anymore, but New Riff is making some great bourbons for a great price point too, in my opinion. And then there's a couple that are outside of the traditional bourbon areas. The Smoke Wagon Unfiltered out of Las Vegas is top notch. Really like that. I haven't tried any of their other selections yet, but I've been really pleased with that. And then Campfire out of Park City, Utah. They make a good selection out there that I've enjoyed too. And these are all I say they're mid tier. That Unfiltered, I believe, was 80, and the Campfire I think was around there too. But that New Riff is a very affordable bottle. You find it, MSRP for around 40, 45 here in Middle
Yeah.
Tennessee. And then another one that I really like Widow Jane too. That's been one that's I think I paid 110 for that, but that's a good one too.
Which
So kind of say what?
which year?
To be honest with you, Brandon, I have to go look. I don't know off the top of my
With
head.
the white label 10-year?
It is, yeah, it's the white label.
Yeah. So that's my personal favorite out of the Widow Jane selection. That's why I was asking. I've had I think they make a 14 maybe, and I know they make a 12 as well. But for the price point, I think you get a little better flavor out of the 10 personally. But no, I agree with you.
So, a crazy question we just got from the internet from out of Knoxville again. What's the difference between a Tennessee whiskey and a Kentucky bourbon?
So you're really getting into some the weeds with that. It's really about nomenclature more.
Really?
And they say that you're not supposed to call anything that comes out of Kentucky anything other than a bourbon, and it should be labeled as such. But I think that's kind of a little bit, cheesy.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Splitting hairs.
I mean, you're going to have hardcore whiskey people that say, Tennessee whiskey is this, this, this. Again, I go back to, you drink what you like, call it what you want. Bourbon, whiskey, tastes pretty good. So.
Agreed.
Enough that you both have learned a little bit about it over time.
For sure.
Again, let's go back to at your house. Do you have? Brendan showed us his what did you call that? Your decanter. I know it's called a decanter in the wine world.
Oh, the Glencairn.
Okay. Yes. Do you have a rig? Do you have? I want to drink out of these glasses. I make my own 1 cube ice, and I have my own rig that I make that out of. Do you have those kind of tools that you use at your house, Lenny?
Yeah, I think to properly enjoy it, I mean, not to be too aristocratic or snobby, but I really do think it's more enjoyable with the proper setup. And part of that is the glass, like Brandon showed, and then just a good standard drinking glass. And for me, having the molds that you can do the one rock with, it just makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I don't always drink everything straight neat. I like to, at least the first time I try it, I like to try it neat and out of a Glencairn, because that, in the bourbon world, that's the proper way or whatever. But I do find that you actually do get a lot more of the flavor, and I'm learning the nose of it as well. So, yeah.
So, Lenny, you do a lot of traveling, and I think you do too, Brandon. Do you find that what is popular is more regional based? Because I've noticed my friends, I work for a company out of Michigan, and I notice a lot of times they are drinking out of a different kind of core up there than I see you guys in this area drink of. So is it some just taste, or is it local distilleries?
I think there's a certain locality that comes with it. Some of the bourbons down here are definitely, obviously, we're closer to Kentucky and historic bourbon making places. But I went up to Des Moines not too long ago and was talking to the guy at the bar about that. And I think once you get out of the mid-tier bourbons and get up into the Stag and the Weller and the higher stuff. That becomes kind of more of a universal things that everybody knows, and I think that maybe it's just more brand recognition than anything else. But I think for some of the local things here, I do find that the guys I run around with down here, we all enjoy the same kind of stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. And Brendan, what do you find as you travel? Is it just specialty, or do you find the same brands?
You'll find some kind of little boutique kind of bourbon, some new local to the area, there's actually one here that I just recently found. It's called Buffalo Chip, and it's out of Nashville. They're fairly new. They've got what they call an American whiskey or American bourbon, and then another one that's an actual higher proof, and it's pretty good. I stumbled on it in a local store down in Tullahoma, and they were doing a tasting, and I tasted it, and it was, again, it had that rich body. It was kind of chewy, oily, base, and a great finish. So, it's $59, well worth it. But as far as traveling outside, I mean, I think it's all kind of sourced from a few of the major distilleries, and then you start getting different blends and barrel combinations and different aging processes. So.
Right. Well, not to switch subjects, but we were going to talk. A couple of the cigar guys really didn't show up, but I see Brandon smoking on one, and I've recently discovered a cigar I love. So do you? Let's tie it to the bourbon. Do you like a cigar when you drink bourbon, or is the cigar usually a thing unto itself for you?
So I definitely enjoy it most with a really good glass of bourbon.
Okay.
That's kind of my thing. Like on a weekend or something of that nature, you sit out on the back porch, have a good glass of bourbon, or hanging with friends, something like that. Good glass of bourbon, a good cigar, kind of like this. Just that's why smoking a cigar, drinking a good glass of bourbon. Just the camaraderie and yeah. But I'm a big golfer, obviously, so I enjoy a cigar on the golf course as well.
Nice. I found a brand called American Rebel, which is maybe the most mild cigar that you've ever had, but it's a really easy smoke. I remember at the draft this year, Raj gave me a Rocky Patel, and for 2 days I was coughing afterwards. So being a non-smoker, and it's once a week I have a cigar, I like something that's not so harsh. And I know, Lenny, you don't smoke a lot of cigars, but when you do, what do you look for?
I look for kind of just a smooth, easy smoking cigar, and it is rare when I smoke one. I'm talking rare as in maybe 2 a year, maybe more than that, maybe 3 or 4 a year.
Every time you win the fantasy football championship.
Well, it's becoming more frequently. What can I say? But I look for something that's pretty smooth smoking. And again, I'm ignorant in the cigar world, so I don't have a very refined palate about that. But I try not to. If it feels like it's tearing up my lungs, it's not going to be a fan favorite.
Right.
But I enjoy them, and like if then I go out and play golf, even rare, then I smoke a cigar. But it's definitely one of those things that there's certain activities that it just pairs well with naturally.
Yeah, I find after I have like a real satisfying meal, like if I'm on a trip or something, and I have a great meal, a good cigar to finish it off is really nice. Brandon, do you have
EST? But sorry.
Do you have a brand that in particular you like, or?
Again, cigars are like the bourbon world. Again, I'm new to them. I smoke what I like. I've found that the Connecticut's are kind of the lighter version, I guess, of a cigar. They're a lot easier smoking. My first kind of few cigars that I got into were the Rocky Patels. You could find some of those that were really smooth, easy smoking. But, it's like anything. They've got different levels of, complexity and, how, I guess, thick it is, for lack of a better word, of the cigar. I've really gotten into this. It's kind of like a little boutique cigar. I found it locally. It's the Gherkin brand. They make about, they have like 105 different flavors or different types of cigars. But I found them locally and I bought a couple different versions, and I've really, really enjoyed those. They pair well with bourbon. That's actually what I'm smoking now. It's a bourbon flavored cigar, so imagine that. But it's good.
Yeah, and let me plug right here for a second. Of course, we're going to go to 7:30 here with the show with ManTalk with my friend Lenny and my friend Brandon, of course, from the Jimmy James Football League. And then tonight, 3 hours Sports will be here at 8 o'clock with Raj and Robbie. And tonight's really hey, it's all about the football league, guys. So I mean, I enjoy that. Do you? And this is going to sound. I have a good friend of mine who lives in Knoxville that I really consider a bourbon expert, and he's always talking about he's quite extensive with his collection and stuff. But he absolutely told me one day when I was asking him that some of the real super high end, he feels like it becomes almost status to drink. And he was talking about Pappy Van Winkle and stuff like that. I mean, do you when you go into somewhere and they're pushing, is it status? Is it high school again and you've got to have a certain team? Or is it really that much better than everything else on the market?
Go ahead. I was gonna say I think it's totally status for some of these higher end stuff. You know, that Pappy and some of that stuff. It's just outrageous, and it's a little bit like the diamond industry. You know, they've got a unique hold, and they only produce so many, so it makes it more rare, and then that just further increases the uniqueness of it because it's hard to find. But taste wise, I think past a certain point, you're not getting any different. And it's just now that bourbon's a new thing, it's just only increased that scarcity and people really going after those big names. Like Brandon said, either with some of these allotments, unless you know somebody at the liquor store, or you want a raffle, you can just forget about it. It's not going to happen, and unless you're kind of a liquor store, junkie, run around to 15 in a day, just seeing what's out there, which I've done before, so I can't say anything bad about it.
Right.
But it's hard to find that stuff, unless you know somebody or willing to pay through the teeth.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. It's definitely a status. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day.
Right.
These people know what they're doing. They see the market and how it's increased. Like I said, there are 1,000 bourbons out there that you can get for $100 or less that are fantastic. And there's no reason to chase a Pappy 23, for $1,500 when you can get 10 good bourbons for less than 100. So.
Yeah, I was at when I was up in Des Moines, I was at a little bar up there, and they had a Pappy, and just out of curiosity, I was going to see what a shot was, and it was $65 for a single 1 ounce pour. I was like, golly, it's insanity.
Yeah, were you tempted just to have the experience?
I was, but not that tempted. Not $65 for a 1 ounce pour tempted.
Yeah, hey, that's a good bottle of bourbon for $65.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
So you're listening to ManTalk, Bourbon Talk, Friend Talk here on River City Media tonight at 8 o'clock. 3 hours Sports will be back. So guys, we got about 10 minutes. And one thing, the only goal I really had from this is, I got a lot of respect for both of you when it comes to this topic. And I like I said on the text, Lenny, we couldn't have done this without you and Brandon. But when I do a show like this, and since I can't be an expert, I have people, and we'll have people watch this for the next 5 years when it goes out on YouTube. So you have someone sitting in front of you that is, became interested in bourbon. Give me, both of you, take a chance. Give me a how to get started. Where do you spend your money, and how to be smart about getting into the and I do consider this a hobby. It's more than just drinking, because people, and this has become really serious to me. Like, I have some friends that's into wine, and they are very, very, very particular about it. And this has become the next wine generation to me. So,
Agreed.
whichever one wants to start, just give me. If you had $500, what would you do?
Well, kind of like Brandon said, once you hit 30, you either got to get into smoking meats or drinking bourbon or collecting bourbon, really closer to it at this point.
Right.
There's a couple places when I got started. I had a couple friends that got me into it, and then I started researching online. And bourbon subreddit is pretty good on Reddit.com. And just figuring out what the reviews are and what people are saying about this, that, and the other, and which ones to avoid, which ones to try. And then I'd start out with, a good mid-tier bourbon that's going to cost you $35-40, and just sip it and see what you think about it. I mean, it's not for everybody. Because previously, before I got into it, I was not much of a I'm going to drink it neat kind of guy, but that's definitely evolved. But for, if you had started out with a couple $100, I would go with definitely that Old Forester. I'm just looking at my collection right now. Some of the Russell's Reserve is great for the price point. I'm not the biggest Willet guy, but some people love it. What else do I like off the top?
Well,
Yellowstone's a great cheap one. Go ahead. Sorry.
do you invest in some glassware and some ability to make your own ice cubes at the same time?
Yeah, I think that would be and it's pretty cheap these days. You can get the set off Amazon. For $15, and that includes the cubes and everything, and it'll enhance your experience exponentially, in my opinion.
All right, Brandon.
Totally agree. One of the things to start out on, if you're looking to go that route, obviously, most people probably drinking bourbon start out with Jack and Coke and kind of go from there. But if you're looking to do something on the rocks, which is kind of, I think, where we all started. You obviously don't want to go straight into the neat, because it just tastes like straight alcohol initially. I think a Buffalo Trace, just the straight Buffalo Trace brand, $25-30 is a solid buy. It's a good weeded bourbon that's going to kind of ease you into it. It's not a high proof. Again, Elijah Craig. Just the normal Elijah Craig small batch is another good one. But there's so many of them. Like you said, the Russells, the Yellowstone is also really good. Trying to think off the top of my head, anything else? Possibly, if you can find it, an Eagle Rare. Eagle Rare, it's a 10-year-old bourbon. And usually, if it's on the shelf, you can get it $30-40, and
right.
It's fantastic. It's another good entry bourbon.
So you bring up a good point that I didn't want to get out of here without discussing. We all know that they put it into barrels, and these barrels are charred, and the color passes into the barrel. What is the big deal about aging? As a novice, I hear 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. Is it the chemical reaction that it's having with the wood? The longer it ages, the better it gets?
I think there's definitely a sweet spot, in my opinion. Something from 7 to, I don't know, 7 to 12 is about the good spot for me. Otherwise, it can become over the top oaky or woody and not really enjoyable. I've got a 15-year Knob Creek in here that, to be honest, it's just not my favorite right now. I'm going to have to circle back to it and try it some more. But, it is that time in the bottle, and, even letting it slosh around, that's why they roll them around. So there's Jefferson's Aged Ocean, which is kind of a unique thing where they've got it on a ship out there, which is constantly jostling back and forth to, coming in and out of the wood. But for me, that sweet spot is, 7 to 10 years or so.
How about you, Brendan?
I agree. Although the new riff is about I think 3 year, 8 months.
That's true. Yeah.
So you're starting to find a lot more of these blends that are stepping up right with that aging process. I enjoy kind of like Lenny, around that 12-year mark is a really good sweet spot. Again, you start getting in the 15 to 20 years, it's going to be super oaky and overbearing is the forefront of it. Not that it's not smooth and really good. I've got an Elijah Craig 18 that is fantastic, but again, it's an acquired taste for that kind of oaky forefront.
Okay, yep. You got me where I was going to save this till the next show. And y'all, we'll do this about once a month. We may get into some different subjects, but I love talking about this. We discussed, or we had a group text going about the Jeffersons. I was intrigued by, does the salt air not do something to it also? Would that not cause the wood to expand or contract differently?
It's a valid point. I hadn't considered that aspect of it, and I don't know, to be honest. But I do know that, and it's a little bit of a gimmick, in my opinion, kind of.
Okay.
But I think it's also a cool thing to separate yourself, and I'm sure they're not the only ones to do it, but they're probably the most successful at it. But I do think it's one of my favorite bourbons that I have right now at my house. But it's just that constant motion of the wood and the bourbon coming in and out of it.
I agree. I think it's more of a niche kind of deal. Separate them, something different, marketing ploy. But again, I do believe that the constant motion does help somewhat with the flavor and the smoothness of it, maybe.
Yeah.
But as far as the salt, no clue, man.
Sounds like I'm going to be Googling that one tonight.
Yeah, that
All right.
feels too scientific, above my pay grade. Right.
All right, one more question, guys, and we're out of time. And this time, God, this went by fast. And I know Lenny keeps looking.
Cigar, man.
Hey, man, it goes so fast.
It's like I'll be sitting by myself.
Well, you can join us at 8 o'clock too, and stay with us. So, have you tried any of the rapid aging stuff? Because I've read mixed reviews. I watch the show Moonshiners on TV. I see, we can throw a young oak chunk in there for 6 weeks if it's charred right and get the same taste as a 7-year barrel. So my friend in Knoxville, who I call my liquor expert, and I asked him about it. He said it was absolutely trash. So have y'all had the experiences with this stuff?
So my brother did that, and his experience echoes his friends, and he said it was absolute trash. He said it was just terrible. So I've never tried it.
Yeah, there is a science behind this, and the people know what they're doing that actually do it. That's why the bourbon rush and the craze for these, aged. It's a process. I mean, it takes time. You can't rush it and pull out a rabbit out of the hat.
Right. So that went fast. We got time for another question here. So before we get off there, the new rage that's going on also is bourbon tours. Have you guys took any of the tours or been to any of the distilleries? I know Chris, our friend, just went to Maker's Mark, and it looked like a great. I mean, I want to go. Lenny, have you done any of that?
I have. I've done that. It's been a couple years. We went up there and did some of that. Obviously, last year it was a little bit of a one-off. I'm not sure what you could get in and see at the different places, but I've enjoyed it, and it's a fun. If you get a crew of people together, it can be kind of a fun little weekend thing to do. Go hop around and see the different places up there on the Bourbon Trail.
I have not been on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. Just hadn't made it that way yet. My wife's been a couple times through work, and like I said, she's picked up a few bottles for me at the distilleries. But Jack Daniel's is the last bourbon tour I've been on, and actually a Squire there. But again, it's not my favorite juice. So
I've actually never done that one, so it's a little bit of a shame for that.
Living right there, I've done it probably 100 times. So Had a lot of friends that still work there.
Oh wow! So you kind of grew up over there too, didn't you, Lenny?
Yeah. Well, sorry.
No,
I mean,
I'm from Nashville, but my
okay.
cousin is down there. Is down there from Estill, and I spent a lot of time down there in Estill in Franklin County as a kid, and went to school nearby in Chattanooga, and then just had friends down there. So I've been in and out for my whole life.
And Brendan, you are from that region, correct? You're right. I mean,
Yeah,
the front
from
door.
Estill Springs, yeah, Franklin County. Like I said, I've been on that tour about 100 times. So
That's cool,
yeah,
man.
good thing.
So next year, when it comes draft day, I have to ask this question: what are you bringing to the draft? And can I bring you something extra, Lenny? Because I'm damn tired of you winning the league. I told
You
y'all
may.
not to cuss, and then I did.
You may. I'm gonna bring probably a bottle of Buffalo Trace and then probably a bottle of Weller. But those are just two that I've really enjoyed, and they're smooth. And if Robbie mixes one with Buffalo Trace, I won't be heartbroken. But as long as he doesn't do
Buffalo
that with a
Trace is not
Weller,
bad. Yeah, Weller can't do it.
yeah, agreed.
I'm gonna be doing the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Oh, really?
One of my
That's a
favorites.
good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So, and a bat to smack Lenny in the knee so he can't draft.
Yeah. And will you be predicting the Preakness again this year, Jane?
Maybe.
Uh,
To be determined.
Hey, if you wasn't there, and we talk about this league, even Raj and Robbie and I talk about it. Last year we're drafting, and it was Preakness Day, was it not? Or was it? Yeah. So it's Preakness Day, and I've got a $10 bet on some horse, random. Don't even remember who it was. So it was you and Geoff and someone else.
Dave Dix.
Yeah, went all in on a horse and had no knowledge, just picked it by the name,
Yeah,
and hit it. Correct?
that's correct. And we won, and we had quite the celebration afterwards. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We did good right till a certain karaoke machine broke out, and we won't
Oh,
discuss
that's
that fact.
terrible.
Yeah.
That's that. But all right, one last question, guy. We'll call it a night. What would you do? Give me some advice here. I'm a newbie. My friends, I'm going to tell them to go watch it. My friend that was on the show last week, that was it's a competition barbecuer. I said, give advice to your average people, and he goes, go buy an average grill. You don't need my $6,000 grill to make good barbecue. Lenny, and then we'll finish up with Brandon. And before we do, guys, I've had a great time. This has been so much fun to me. And everybody goes, oh, you don't drink, but I'm intrigued by the subject, man. It's an art to me. It's an art, and I enjoy reading about it, like Uncle Nearest's story. And folks, if you haven't read the story or seen the story, it's absolutely a great story. So go Google it. There's a great YouTube video. So last words. Start with you, Lenny, and then Brendan. You can bring us home.
Well, thanks for putting this on, Randall. I know I've enjoyed it, and I'm sure Shane has too. It's been fun to get on here and chew the fat with you guys, and I like watching your little media empire grow, and happy to be a part of it.
Hey, I love it.
I would just say, take it easy. You don't have to go in, hip deep immediately. Just find something that you may enjoy. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get into it, and just start there and let it grow from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you for having us on. This is awesome. Look forward to doing this again for sure. Yeah, I mean, get a bottle of Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, something super weedy, smooth to drink, and just kind of introduce yourself to it. See what you like.
That's awesome, man. Well, again, everybody, this has been my friend Lenny Hutchison and my friend Brandon Shane. They've been dropping the down low on some bourbon to us. We'll be back. And maybe I'd really like to get Clay on here with you guys to talk about the bourbon cigar mix, because Clay has just
he's way better than that.
Yeah, he has just such a working knowledge of cigars. I think we could really, kind of blend it together. So if you are watching River City Media, we will be back at 8 o'clock with 3 Hours Sports. Tonight, subject NFL draft. What's wrong with the Dodgers bullpen? What's the Falcons going to do with the 4th pick? And hey, guys,
Justin Fields.
That's going to. Shane is a huge Ohio State fan. I was like, I should have asked you that during the show.
He's going to burn everyone that passed on him too.
Hey,
Yeah,
you know what? I said it, Shane, and I don't get off on the subject. And I'm a lifelong Falcons fan.
I know.
If they draft Justin Fields, who is a local kid to Atlanta, they will sell more in jerseys in the first year than they pay him in salary. He will be the most popular player in that franchise history probably since Michael Vick. So,
well, it's not a bad move because Matty Ice isn't a spring chicken,
No, he's 36. Hey, Lenny, I won't
he's
argue
39.
with you.
No, he's 39.
I won't argue with Lenny no more. So, ever since I traded him Melvin Gordon because I thought he was a dead old man. So, anyway, guys, I appreciate it. And everybody stick around for 3 hours. And we'll try to schedule this watch. And maybe, I've got the barbecue guy coming once a month. Maybe we can mix that in with the, and plus maybe we can get into some other distilled spirits at some point. So,
Sure.
Everybody, thank you for watching River City Media. We'll be back in a half hour with 3 Hours Sports.
See you guys.
See you.